For over 10 years, my most viewed video was the start of my walkthrough for Nancy Drew Haunting of Castle Malloy. It's a good game and I enjoy playing it, for the most part. I wouldn't say it's one of my favorites, because the final third of the game gets into some really weird territory that I don't enjoy. It's got mohawk sheep and a jetpack, then there's the culprit who never talks and the terrible chemicals puzzle. So I'd say it's a good game, but it gets kind of bad at the end. I'd probably rank it higher if the ending had been more like the other kidnapping mysteries, like The Final Scene or Sea of Darkness. Since I only dislike the final third of the game, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. Those are my overall thoughts on this game. The rest of the video is going to be me talking about the entire game from start to finish in quite a bit of detail, just like my other reviews. The premise is that Kyler Mallory was an exchange student with the Drews a couple of years ago. She wants Nancy to be the maid of honor at her wedding. Either she really loved being at the Drews, or she asked other people first, and they all said no. Their wedding is at an old family castle in Ireland. Nancy says she's never stayed in a castle before, which is a lie. Treasure in the Royal Tower, hello. To start the mystery, you have to pick up the phone card and the wedding invitation. I like how they included the invitation here. It's a nice little touch. After a quick travel by map screen, Nancy arrives in Ireland. She drives on country roads to the place she belongs. Nancy's kind of sarcastic when Ned suggests she shouldn't drive and use her phone at the same time. Ned's right. Nancy can't set a bad example for the players. So she learns her lesson the hard way. Thanks to her distracted driving, Nancy crashes the car and destroys her cell phone. There's a Banshee woman that appears on the road before the crash, but it's a little hard to see her because she's only on screen for a second. They definitely could have played up the Banshee angle in this game a bit more. Either way, a car crash is a very eventful way to start the game. We get a bird's eye view of this area, so we can kind of see Nancy, but we only see her from the top. She sort of looks like Jane Pendleton from this angle. You move her around with the arrow keys. If she's in an area with a blue outline, you can click on it to go there. Right by the car is a sign for Baylor. The Screaming Banshee Inn and Pub has no vacancy. If you go inside, Seamus says he'll be right with you. Then he ignores you forever. Seamus, you jerk. Also by the car is an archway. The right side has a 4x4 slider puzzle. I know a lot of people hate slider puzzles, but I like this one. It's got a really neat-looking Celtic design. It's cool. A picture of the finished design's on the left, and when you solve the puzzle, Nancy says, "There's a piece missing." Well, duh. Did you not notice that earlier? On the ground is a homemade doll. It looks like Matt, and it has his wedding ring on it. How strange. When Nancy picks up the doll, a sheep appears. It gets startled by Nancy and runs away. I'm not sure why they included this scene with the sheep. It's not bad, it's just a touch odd and doesn't add much to the game. I don't know, they made some really weird design choices in this game. It's cool for the most part, though. Nancy goes upwards to reach Castle Malloy. Knock on the front door to meet Donald Delaney. Another weird thing, Nancy has to see the front doors every single time she tries to enter the building. Like, why? Can't you just have her see the front doors the first time and then never again? We don't need to see it every time. Nancy meets Donald Delaney, the grumpy groundskeeper. He tells Nancy, the wedding's off. You should go back home. He says, Kyler's sleeping, and then he slams the door on Nancy's face. There's a light on in Kyler's room. You need to pick up some rocks from the ground and toss them at Kyler's window. This is a fun little challenge. You aim the rocks so they hit the window. A few small rocks will get her attention. If you throw a large rock, it smashes through the window. I like that. Either way, Kyler waves hello and points at the front door. You knock on it again. Donald tries to kick you out, but Kyler scolds him and lets you inside. I like Kyler. I think I had a crush on her when I first played this game. She does have a cute accent. Don't tell my wife or she'll get mad at me. How dare you like her? Her turtlenecks are nowhere near as cool as my turtlenecks are. My wife also would have gotten mad if I disappeared right before the wedding. That's what Matt did. Kyler's not angry. She thinks it's just a wacky prank. But seriously, who pulls a prank like that just before a wedding? That's a terrible idea, which is not funny in the slightest. Kyler asks Nancy to investigate and find Matt right away. Kyler spends the entire game reading about the Malloy family. Both she and Denal mention Brendan Malloy, who was a double agent in World War II. His family died in an explosion here. The giant castle property has been abandoned ever since. I don't like the room that Kyler's in. There's not much to see besides bookshelves. The room is so dark and gray that the first time I played the game, I didn't notice the gear puzzle or the lantern puzzle. And then I got stuck later on because I thought I was already done with this room. People hate the lantern puzzle, and for good reason. I don't think anyone, really enjoys it. The puzzle is reused from Stay Tuned for Danger, but that was 17 games ago, so I think it's fair game for them to reuse it. It's just not a fun puzzle. It's okay if you know the pattern, but if you don't, then it's pretty tough. A big part of the difficulty is how long it is. On Junior mode, you have 5 rings to stack. The fastest solution is 31 moves. Senior mode has 7 rings, which means you have to make at least 127 moves. That is asking a little bit too much. I could totally understand people getting stuck on a puzzle that requires over 100 moves. Even over 50 moves is kind of a lot. So, tough puzzle right at the start of the game, too. Ugh, that's not so good. Solving the puzzle gives you a lantern, which lets Nancy explore the property. Next door to Kyler's room is the nursery, where Matt was staying. This nursery is really creepy. I like it. I said Kyler's room is kind of dark, gray, and boring. This room is also dark and gray, but it looks more old and abandoned than boring. The dead plants and cobwebs are creepy, and there's the ominous warning, "Evil returns to the evildoer." I think this is probably one of the scariest locations of the game. Nancy sees a crow stealing jewels from the fireplace. What a mean, thieving crow! The crow drops a jewel, but there are 3 more to find. Also by the fireplace is a broken pair of glasses, which belongs to Matt. There's a doll puzzle in the corner of the room. You need to put 5 dolls into place by following the clues. The clues indicate where things are in relation to each other. It's an okay puzzle. If you solve it, you get a token. You can also get a token by rocking the rocking horse. The tokens show up in an icon in the upper left corner of the screen. The icon is fine, but I always wish that these games didn't have a mostly empty bar at the top of the screen. I would 100% sacrifice those 2 icons just to get a larger screen. There's an otter puzzle on the shelf, and I like it, maybe because it's one of the few things in this game that's bright and colorful. That's a weird design decision, I'd say. Ireland is a very bright, colorful, happy place, but this game is just sort of dark, abandoned, and depressing. I don't like it that much. The goal of the otter puzzle is to swap and rotate pieces so the colors match. The middle piece is already in place, which is super helpful. I think this is a solid puzzle. I'd say it has the right amount of difficulty. When you solve it, you get a gear for the gear puzzle. And there's the main hallway of the castle. I don't like that. It's very large and empty. I wish they had put extra stuff here. Even just boxes of random useless junk would be preferable to nothing. That's what we get. It's a mostly empty castle. On the ground by the fireplace is a picture of kitten Kyler at the flower stall from the previous game. Oh, funny. I don't remember seeing them there. She's got her arms around him and is super smiley while he's busy being handsome. Nancy can't ask Kit about the picture until later on, which bugs me. I wanted her to confront Kit over the picture right away. A lot of female players like Kit. They think he's good looking. He looks fine when you have conversations with him. Here in the picture and in the ending scenes, I think he looks a little weird. He looks a bit like Fongo from the previous game. Maybe it's just me, though. Kit seems like a normal, friendly person. He's on the cots in the corner doing real estate work. He has a large black eye. Maybe that's why I think he looks a little off. Kit says Matt took his luggage with him when he disappeared. He's pretty sure Matt ran away to avoid getting married. If Kit truly thinks there isn't going to be a wedding, then why is he hanging around? Does he not have anywhere else to be? There's a fortune-telling machine named Madame Isabel. You need 3 tokens to get a fortune. I think the fortunes are kind of boring and pointless. Bess and George say they won't give you hints because you can get hints from the fortune teller. She makes a poor replacement for Bess and George's hints. The first fortune you get comes with a weight. The other weight is on a table nearby. The Great Hall has a printing press. The second time you talk to Kyler, she asks you to use the printing press to make 3 brochures. It's an easy enough challenge, and it does a good job of preparing players for the more difficult printing plate puzzle later on. One of the plates is here underneath the wheel. To solve the puzzle, you put black ink on the plate. Then you put a paper on it, you spin the wheel to stamp the ink, put the paper on the drying machine to the right, you press the button to dry it, and put it in the box. Do this 3 times, and you're done. Nancy reads the brochure. She notes that the best man is Alan Payne, who's not here. Why isn't Kit the best man? Kit says it's got something to do with office politics. Kyler says Alan left when Matt disappeared. She gives you Alan's phone number, which she just happens to have memorized. There's a weights puzzle on the desk opposite of Kyler. It's a math puzzle. The number of each weight is on a paper inside the desk. Your goal is to balance the scales by putting 100 weight on each scale. I think it's a decent puzzle. Solving it gives you the missing piece for the slider puzzle at the archway. When you solve the slider puzzle and put the piece into place, you get a second printing press plate. The first time you leave Castle Malloy, you see lights coming out of the abandoned tower. How curious. If you try to go up the tower yourself, it's a game over sequence. There aren't any stairs. There's a telephone booth outside of the pub. You can use Nancy's phone card to call Bess and George, as well as Ned. They're all attending a pool party with hot guys, and the notorious boyfriend-stealing Minky McNabb. I wonder why we never hear of her outside of this game. Such a weird idea. I hope her name is just a nickname, like not her actual name. Minky McNabb. She's gonna steal your boyfriend. The pool party setting is a neat idea and it works well. It kind of makes me wish I was solving a pool party mystery, not a creepy castle mystery. Nancy calls Alan Payne. He says that everyone in the group was fighting. Specifically, Kit and Matt got into a big fight right before Kit got the black eye. Alan was glad to leave them behind, and he sort of leaves Nancy behind too. I don't think she can call him back after this brief conversation. The Alan segment is fine, but it's so short. I think they could have gotten rid of Alan completely without affecting the story much. He's mostly there to talk about the black eye. That conversation could have been given to Denal instead. Denal is inside the Screaming Banshee Inn. I love Denal. He is such a fun character and a major reason why I like the game. He's so set in his ways and he has more jokes than all the other characters combined. Plus, he's Irish! If it wasn't for him, we'd have an Ireland game with no Irish characters, which is just weird. Denal, being a grumpy old goat, refuses to talk until he gets a drink called a crow's nest. Since the normal mixmaid took ill, Nancy's forced to be her replacement. Seamus, the invisible barman, explains how to mix drinks. It's a variation of the cooking challenges we've had in other games. There's a reference guide in the lower left that shows all the ingredients for each recipe. Most drinks require you to mix flavors in the center. Some drinks get extra things like limes or strawberries or blending. Each drink comes with a specific glass. Make orders fast enough and you get tips. My favorite drinks are the mugs of root beer on the left because those are the easiest ones to make. Nancy later tells her friends that these are non-alcoholic drinks. I think they added that line on purpose because if they didn't, the game would have a higher content rating for alcohol references. Once you mix around, you can talk to Denal. Denal hates Matt because he's not Irish. Denal would much rather see Kyler marry Kit. He thinks Matt was kidnapped by the fairies, Or the good people. The good people blew up the castle to kill Fiona, so they're not above a little kidnapping. Denal says the good people also stole Nancy's car keys, which is a bummer. She can't go back home if fairies are taking her car for a joyride. To the right of Denal is a small arcade area. The dart machine requires you to get exactly 201 points to get a dog toy for the doll puzzle. The challenge is a little tough for me because Nancy waves the darts all over the screen like she can't hold her hands still for 2 seconds. I like darts better than the other game, Difference Detective. You have to spot 12 differences between two pictures. The pictures are pretty cute and colorful, and it's fun to play. I just don't like Difference Detective because I'm terrible at it. I can never get through it without saving and reloading the game. Solving the puzzle gets you a sheep whistle, which is added to the upper left corner of the screen. After Nancy talks to Alan Payne, she can talk to Kit about his black eye. Kit says Alan misunderstood what happened. It was an accident. What, so Matt accidentally punched Kit in the face? Kit refuses to say anything else until you do the seating chart puzzle. Follow the clues to put all the wedding guests in the right spots. It's pretty similar to the doll puzzle, except you have way more instructions. The instructions are different on junior and senior mode, although the solution is the same for both. I think this is a good puzzle. I like how all the names are characters from previous Nancy Drew games. That's cute. When you're done, Kit says, "Well, now we can talk." And then he gives you a confusing book about leprechauns. That's not what we were talking about earlier, Kit. You go to the garden, which is left of the castle. On a bench are wedding vows. Kyler has heavily edited them, and at the bottom is, "What am I doing? This is wrong!" Either she's having second thoughts about the wedding, or she is really strict about grammar. Doesn't matter, because we can never talk to her about this, ever. There are 7 leprechauns here, each with a different shamrock on its chest. They match the pictures in the leprechaun book. You want to spin the leprechauns to match the book. This opens up the crow's secret nest. Inside are a doll and the 3 missing jewels for the nursery. You put the jewels on the nursery wall. There's a rainbow design on top, which is your clue to click the colors in the order they appear in the rainbow. It's an okay puzzle, but the design confuses me because there are 8 spots for the 7 colors. Are there 2 different shades of purple, or what? Solving the puzzle opens a secret passage in the fireplace. Inside is a plank and a note card. When you leave, Nancy gets attacked by the crow right before a flying banshee appears in the window. It's both cool and scary. The monster slowly approaches, but it's scared off when Kyler screams. I guess Kyler heard the noise and came in to make sure Nancy was okay. That's nice of Kyler. Kyler says there has to be a rational explanation for the banshee. Like, I don't know, they both had too much to drink at the pub. Go to the bog and use the plank to get inside. The note card gives directions based on the rock piles. For example, 4 rocks to the left means go left 4 times. Follow all the directions to reach the bog hut. This puzzle is a little too long, so I'm glad you only have to solve it once. The navigation in the bog hut could be improved. It's pretty easy to miss the all-important jetpack, which you can only zoom in on if you're standing in the doorway. It's invisible from all the other angles. That's not good considering how crucial the jetpack is. The desk on the right has a locked box, an unfinished sheep doll, and a doll puzzle. You can solve it for tokens, but you have to have that dog from the darts puzzle. Now I'm picturing Fiona walking into the pub and playing darts. Why else would she have a puzzle with the dog in it? I guess it's possible the dog toy has been in the darts machine for over 50 years. That strikes me as unlikely. The darts game is hard, but not that hard. The desk on the left has a bunch of herbs and a recipe book. This reminds me of Minette's tea-making challenge from Danger by Design, but it's way easier since it tells you directly what ingredients to use. You use tansy, pennyroyal, wormwood, thyme, and catnip. That gives you bugbane, which you'll use on the bird's cage here for a mirror. I think it's an okay puzzle. I like how you can test the solution right away, instead of having to memorize ingredients or travel a long distance. The recipe book has an entry on summoning banshees, which is missing. That's a nice little touch. And now I'm wondering who wrote the recipe book. Can Fiona read and write? The mirror goes into 3 Celtic crosses that are in the middle of the grounds. And another problem I have with this game is just exploring the grounds. It's kind of tough. It's mostly just walking through black, dark areas. It's not obvious where things are. Unless you stumble upon the crosses by pure chance, it's impossible to solve this puzzle. It's not like there's a clue that indicates we have crosses on this property, or a clue that indicates the crosses match the mirror. You just have to stumble upon it. When you put the mirror into a cross, you see a symbol on the far wall. And the wall's another location that is not obvious. Like most of the wall goes to the top of the screen to the bottom. Most of it can't be interacted with, just a really small patch. You press the 3 symbols on the wall, according to the dates on the crosses. This gives you an admittedly cool looking animation of the wall going down. Now you can explore the sheep pasture to the right. You can ask Donal about the big ring of stones here. He says it's ancient writing called Ogham Runes. He bought a book to solve the puzzle, but then he got lazy and gave up. Donal agrees to give you the book if you play the drums. Oh, so the band's drummer and the mixmaid both are gone tonight. They probably ran away together to get married or something. I like the drum challenge, mainly because of the background music. It's really good. I wish this game had more of the upbeat Irish music as opposed to the scary, sad castle music. Nancy's drum music is not good, though. I'm pretty sure Nancy's just hitting the drum at random times instead of keeping the beat. There are musical notes going across the top of the screen. When a note's in the circle, you hit the correct button for it. The buttons are up, down, left, right, and space. If you do well enough, Donal gives you the book. You have to cross-reference Donal's book with the Zodiac book from Kyler's room. That allows you to arrange the 4 pillars correctly. This is a pretty tough puzzle, and I do not enjoy it. With each of the 4 pillars, you have to make the constellation, the season, and the name in runes. It's helpful to work it out on a separate piece of paper. Solving this puzzle gets you a printing press plate. And again, not a puzzle I'm a fan of. Nancy hears the Banshee scream here. It sounds like a hurt dinosaur. Nancy's response is confusion. I think it would have been scarier if Nancy said something like, "That's screaming. Could that be the Banshee I saw earlier?" I find it odd that the Banshee screams so much in this game, yet the game totally ignores the fact that a Banshee's wail means someone will die tonight. Donal mentions that in an optional conversation, and we never hear about it again. Like I said, the game definitely could have played up the Banshee angle, make it seem like Nancy's gonna die tonight. That would have been scary. Also in the sheep pasture is a gear. It's part of a wind chime on the shearing building. It goes with the Otter Puzzles gear for the gear puzzle in Kyler's room. This is another puzzle I don't like. It's a bit too tough. I think it needs an easier junior mode variation. I don't understand why there are 4 numbers on the puzzle screen. They don't seem to refer to anything. The puzzle requires you to alternate between large gears and small gears. That rule is not explained. You have to figure it out on your own. Another rule is that you must use all 20 gears. But that one's a bit easier to figure out. After all, most jigsaw puzzles don't include extra pieces that don't get used. Could you imagine if they did that? It would be so mean. Solving the gear puzzle gives you a doll puzzle. This one has a sheep doll in it. Nancy has to go back to the bog hut to see that the sheep doll needs stuffing. I wish the game allowed players to look at the sheep doll the first time you enter the hut. That way you don't have to take a long detour from the nursery to the bog hut just to check on this small thing. Another issue I have with this part is that Nancy can't ask Donal about the sheep unless she's found Matt's luggage. I don't see the logical connection between Matt's missing luggage and the sheep doll. The last thing in the sheep pen is a tree, which is to the far right. Again, it's not obvious this is a location you're supposed to visit. We have a long wall going up and down the entire screen. Just this one tiny part is the one you have to go to. On the tree, Nancy finds real estate plans for Castle Malloy. Is Kit planning on taking over the property or something? The crow caws, like Kit is a supervillain. Nancy shows the real estate plans to Kyler. She doesn't understand why Kit made them. Kyler changes the topic and gives you a list of flowers for her wedding bouquet. She wants you to find all of them right now, which is a tall order since it's the middle of the night in the middle of nowhere. The book in the bog hut has clues about where the various flowers are. There's basically one flower in every place you can go to. One of them is left of Nancy's car, which is a weird decision. It's this tiny area that you never visit outside of this challenge. I would have switched the flower in that spot with a flower in the crosses. Another flower is in the fairy circle. That's also a place where you never go outside of this challenge, but it makes more sense in this case because, the ending scene takes place in the fairy circle. It's good for players to know it's there. I wish the flower challenge had come earlier in the game. It would be an okay way to get players to explore the castle grounds and familiarize themselves with the area. Once you get all the flowers, Nancy overhears Kit and Kyler have an argument about the real estate plans. Kit insists there won't be a wedding, while Kyler thinks all he wants to do is date her again. Give it up, Kit. It is most definitely over. After this intense argument, they start mumbling about random things. Nancy can't interrupt them or talk to them about it later. Arrgh! I just wish some of the conversations in this game had been changed. I want to talk about all this love drama. It's so interesting. I wanted Nancy to ask Kyler about her relationship with Kit. How did they break up? What made her decide to date her ex's best friend? Inquiring minds want to know. Nancy searches Kit's area while he's gone. She finds Matt's missing luggage underneath the second cot. Kyler takes this as a positive sign, while Kit worries he's an idiot who's been wrong about everything the whole time. Denal says he's the one who hid Matt's luggage. He was hoping to convince Matt to leave. I love how he openly admits it without any remorse at all. It's hilarious. Denal says Nancy should find all 10 sheep since she's so good at finding things. He says Nancy's looking at him like he's got 3 heads. That's another good joke. I love Denal. Best part of the game. I like the sheep challenge. You walk around the sheep pen, and whenever you see a sheep, you click on the whistle to make it leave. Nancy plays a few different songs, which is neat. There's an icon in the upper left which has a running total of how many sheep there are. You can hear bleeding if you're getting close to a sheep, but I don't find that to be helpful since you can move in all 4 directions. You have to guess which one the sheep is in. Admittedly, the challenge does get a little tough when there's only a few sheep left. You can get stuck wandering around for a while. Some people don't like it, but I think it's fun. Once Nancy locks the sheep in the barn, she can ask Denal for some wool. He tells her to make 3 bags full. With the sheep shearing machine, Denal sure does love making Nancy do his chores, doesn't he? He hums a little song which summons sheep. I find it a little amazing that Nancy can play the song perfectly on her first try. I certainly couldn't copy someone's humming that well. I don't like the sheep shearing challenge as much as the sheep herding challenge. It's a math challenge. You have to add the numbers associated with the color of the asterisks, the family of the sheep, and the sheep's mood. I always seem to get the sheep's emotion wrong. I guess bleating, calm, and happy are just too similar for me. Sheep bleat when they're happy, right? The best part is the silly hairstyles that the sheep get. They are hilarious. I like it. I feel kind of bad for the sheep, though, because the shearing machine is large and scary looking. It's like something out of a science fiction horror film. Like, aliens are going to attack the sheep. That could totally be a movie. Get enough sheep correct to get a bag of wool. Nancy has to replace the bag before she can shear any more sheep. Once you get 3 bags full, Nancy can get a piece for herself, use it on the doll at the bog hut to get a sheep doll for the final doll puzzle. As you might expect, this is the hardest doll puzzle. It has the most clues and the fewest number of clues, which say 2 dolls are directly next to each other. Solving the puzzle gets you the last printing plate. Each of the plates has a binary code on it. The desk in Kyler's room has two papers that explain how to get letters out of binary code. Use that to figure out the colors. So for example, the brown plate has Y written on it. You want to cover that plate with Y colored ink. This puzzle is kind of tough. I only solved it once. It'd be easier if the instructions for binary stayed in your inventory, so you don't have to go all the way back to Kyler's room to double check what numbers get added. Immediately after this is the jetpack puzzle. Follow all 13 instructions to start the jetpack. Some people have trouble with this. I think it's an okay puzzle, it's just sort of tedious. All you're doing is pushing random buttons and dials in a particular order. Nancy flies around in the jetpack. It's weird, it's totally awesome, but it's still weird. It's like, okay, this game suddenly became super unrealistic. I like it. Part of me wishes the game had been more grounded in reality. The jetpack isn't necessary for anything besides reaching the tower. It could have been replaced with a grappling hook. Of course, then there wouldn't be that cool scene of the Banshee floating in midair, but that only happens once. All the other times you see the Banshee, she stands on the ground like a normal person. Inside the tower is a bedroom with a locked roll-top desk. There's a family tree above it, which is kind of hard to read. It's not obvious to tell that Fiona's alive at first glance. I looked at the family tree carefully. It says there are 9 Malloy family members who are still alive. That includes Kyler's dead father, but not Kyler. So clearly this family tree is out of date. The small table here has a paper which explains how to unlock the desk. I don't like this puzzle. It always felt to me like an excuse to drag out the game a little more after Nancy's already figured out the Banshee's secret. If Nancy's confrontation with Fiona had taken place here the first time you visit the tower, that would have been fine with me. To solve the puzzle, you need to look at 4 books in Kyler's library. Each one has a letter puzzle to solve. You do have to solve it on a separate piece of paper on your own. Maybe it would be better if you could solve the puzzle in the game, sort of like the anagram puzzle in Danger on Deception Island. The 5th letter is on an island that's just floating in the ocean northwest of the castle. It's not much, it's just an old rock, but it is a good excuse to use the jetpack again. You solve the letter puzzles and open the roll-top desk. Inside is a picture of Fiona, as well as a journal from Fiona's mother about the jetpack. Apparently they gave it to her when she was still too young to go to school. That seems like irresponsible parenting. There is a doll with Nancy's car key on it. It would be cool if she could use it to drive away and leave the game forever. But no. Last time I played the game, I confused the car key with the other key on the desk, which is harder to notice. That key unlocks the box in the bog hut. Inside is a card from Fiona's 6th birthday. Fiona shows up at this point. The scene is mildly scary. Fiona looks creepy, but she doesn't act creepy. She mostly grunts and looks confused while Nancy babbles. In fact, Fiona never says anything. I'm okay with Fiona being the culprit, I guess. Good for the game developers for trying something new. Having a culprit who never talks is a change. It's a neat idea to have a culprit who's not mean or malicious. You could argue the game has no culprit, because Fiona didn't kidnap Matt. He fell into the hidden passageway by accident. The worst thing she did was fail to rescue him, but at least she went out of her way to feed him and keep him alive. We don't know why she did that, but it's still a point in her favor. I think the first time I played the game, I didn't like Fiona as the culprit. I'm okay with it now, because there have been other culprits which were way worse than this random bog woman. Still, if I could change the game so the real culprit is Denal and Fiona is his accomplice, I would do it in a heartbeat. Fiona gently pushes Nancy into a trap door. She falls into an underground passageway. As I said, this hidden passage connects to the nursery in the castle. It's amazing how large it is. I have to imagine there are side tunnels, because if not, that means Nancy passes right by Matt while walking through the tunnel, and neither one of them notices. Nancy goes forward until she finds a switch. She pulls it, which turns on the lights, but also seals off the lab. Poor Matt gets stuck on the other side of the wall. Nancy can talk to Matt for about 6 minutes, and I honestly like the scene with Matt way better than the culprit confrontation with Fiona. He's interesting, and it feels like we've known him for a while, even though we just met him. He knows all about Kit's crush on Kyler, and he's worried his love of dumb pranks has ruined the wedding. It doesn't take long for Nancy to realize she's in a secret lab where Brendan Malloy built rockets. There's a clipboard and a notebook by the periodic table, which explains how to launch the rocket. This is a series of 5 puzzles which all have to be completed to beat the game. I'm okay with all of them, except the chemicals puzzle. That puzzle is flat out terrible. It's not fun, it's pretty long, at least 10 minutes, and it's pretty tense because you could get a huge explosion scene at any second. I tend to die a lot on this challenge. The controls are not the best, they work, but they could have come up with a better, easier interface. One where I don't accidentally blow myself up while trying to open or close the claw. The basic idea is solid. The chemicals have to be sorted into 3 boxes. You have to do it in a particular order because 2 of the boxes are blocked by chemicals. Figuring out the order to move the chemicals in is kind of a fun challenge. About halfway through, you gain access to all 3 boxes, and then the challenge stops being that much fun. You don't have to think about what order to move the chemicals in. All you do is move the chemical that's closest to the bottom of the screen 18 times in a row. The puzzle is bad enough, but it's almost worse when it devolves into mindless sorting. It's like Fox and Geese. It's so bad, it brings the game and all the fun of it to a screeching halt. It makes me not want to replay the game. I'm glad that whenever you die, the puzzle restarts from where you left off. If the game required you to do the puzzle perfectly, I don't think I could do it. The other puzzles are way better in comparison. One is grab the correct tail fin. Well, that's easy. Another is building stairs, which is a tangram puzzle. You have to rotate the shapes to fit the outline. That's perfectly fine. Another puzzle is matching wires, which are all tangled up. That's a lot tougher. The last puzzle is starting the rocket, which is basically you set it to 90.1, put in the key, and flip all the switches from left to right. The rocket goes off. Kit and Kyler just happen to be in the garden, so they notice it. Denal is sleeping, so he notices nothing. Matt and Kyler profess their love for each other. The picture of them smiling at each other looks kind of creepy. Maybe that's why she covers his face in the actual wedding picture, which looks better. Kit is kind of upset until he meets a gorgeous caterer. I think this picture is kind of funny because it's glaringly obvious they used a real-life photograph next to the CGI guy. Denal doesn't quite understand the Fiona storyline. Hey, neither do I. He's nice enough to help Fiona get the psychological help she needs, and hopefully she'll have a happy ending. As for the jetpack, the military confiscated it, and we'll never hear about it again. So that's the game. As I said at the start, I like it. The final third's not so good, with the weird culprit and the chemicals puzzle and the jetpack that feels out of place. I like Denal, and the game has a good setting. I didn't like the exploring around the setting, though. I kind of wish the game had taken place during the daytime. I'd probably like it better that way. I certainly like the game, but I can't rank it among my all-time favorites. But despite all my criticisms, it's way better than the next game. I give Nancy Drew number 19, Haunting of Castle Malloy, a 7 out of 10.